Ah, the glamorous life of a medieval peasant. Picture it. Rolling fields, rustic cottages, and a diet so robust that you'll wonder how they managed to survive long enough to invent anything resembling modern cuisine. While the nobles feasted on roast boar and wine, peasants dined on a meal plan that can best be described as practical. If you've ever thought about a medieval cleanse, let me assure you, it's not a fad you'll want to try. Let's start with bread, the staple of every peasant's diet. Not your fluffy, Instagram-worthy sourdough, though. This bread was more like an edible brick made from barley or rye, occasionally spiced up with a bit of oat or bean flour when the harvest failed. White bread? That was for the rich. The closest a peasant came to white bread was staring longingly at a noble's feast. And don't forget the texture, a coarse, gritty delight that doubled as a natural tooth polisher. Talk about multitasking. Next we have pottage, the dish so versatile it served as breakfast, lunch and dinner. A thick stew made from whatever vegetables and grains were lying around, pottage was the medieval answer to clean out the fridge. Think kale, turnips, onions and leeks boiled into submission. On special occasions, like when pigs flew, there might be a scrap of bacon or a bone for flavor. Basically, pottage was the culinary equivalent of a shrug. It's food, I guess. Peasants ate a lot of vegetables, but don't get too excited. This wasn't a farmer's market spread of heirloom tomatoes and artisanal lettuce. Think cabbage, turnips and more onions. These were boiled into oblivion, ensuring maximum blandness. Potatoes, sorry, those were still hanging out in South America, and tomatoes wouldn't grace European tables for another few centuries. Imagine a life without French fries or ketchup, truly the darkest timeline. Contrary to modern paleo fantasies, the average medieval peasant didn't subsist on roast venison and turkey legs. The meat was a rare treat, usually reserved for holidays or moments of sheer luck, like finding a dead animal that scavengers hadn't already claimed. When they did get meat, it was likely salted or smoked to keep it from spoiling, though fresh wasn't exactly a word anyone used with enthusiasm in the Middle Ages. Forget your modern hydration goals. Medieval peasants drank ale like it was water because water often wasn't safe to drink. But don't picture craft brews or IPAs. This ale was weak, flat, and probably tasted like wet grain. For variety, they might sip some thin wine or cider, assuming they had access to fruit. It was all very sophisticated if your idea of sophistication involves mild fermentation and questionable hygiene. Dessert wasn't a thing for peasants unless you count chewing on the occasional dried fruit or honeycomb. Sugar was a luxury, and chocolate was centuries away from becoming a thing. Their idea of indulgence, maybe an extra dollop of honey on their porridge. It's a miracle they weren't overcome by all the excitement. So there you have it, a diet as uninspiring as the weather in medieval Europe. The peasant menu was all about survival, not flavor. Yet somehow they managed to endure, fueled by pottage and fortified by stale bread. And while it's easy to scoff at their lack of culinary finesse, perhaps we owe them some gratitude. After all, their perseverance laid the groundwork for a future where we could eat avocado toast and complain about kale salads. Now who's ready for dinner?